And the former president repeatedly suggested that he would reverse the Biden administration's electric vehicle mandate.
The electric mandate is a disaster. They don't go far enough. They cost too much. We don't have the materials to make them.
One of the things that caught my attention, one of the final things that the former president said, his final words to reporters included this, quote, "See you on the trail." Hello to you all. Nice to have you in. Is that what we're going to expect from Donald Trump and hear from Donald Trump here over the next, 10 months or so?
Well, that was a chill version of Donald Trump. That was the sedate.
It was pretty monotone today from him.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that it didn't go super with the Teamsters.
You think that's what that was?
Because otherwise he would be bing, ba, 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 ba. What do you think, Meg?
First of all, I think that Blake has now started doing the hand motions when he talks about Trump. So we have
going to be huge.
It struck me as a little low energy. I agree with that. I don't necessarily think it's because he went bad with the Teamsters. Teamsters actually like him. The rank and file really like him. His trade policies, they really like. He did really well with union voters in both 2016 and 2020. But you're right. It wasn't the ordinary Trump. So I don't know if there was something else going on. But I did immediately jump to he had a bad meeting with.
So what about this? What about this play for the union vote? 2020, you referenced President Biden, 56% of the union vote. Donald Trump, 40%. He does trail, but was closing the gap.
I mean, part of the problem with the union vote is union households culturally, in terms of values, are more aligned with Republicans than sometimes Democrats on the social issues. So that's, and particularly in Ohio, where the state has gotten more socially conservative due to certain segments of the population leaving and certain remaining behind. So this culture shock has always kind of been an issue. And it started with Hillary's campaign. I was managing a campaign in Indiana statewide and talking to the labor workers and send a note back to the Hillary campaign saying, we've got problems because they're not excited about this campaign. I do think Joe Biden is the Democrat who can win a lot of those voters back, but it's going to be tough because what I saw today was a very concise, clear Donald Trump. I mean, there was no bird brain references. There was nothing like that.
Right. Yeah, it was totally.
And the messages were very simple, I thought, for complex issues. Now, a lot of them were impossible to achieve and are probably wrong and misguided, but they were simple and easy to understand.
National political reporter for The Hill, what'd you hear there?
Look, what I heard was someone who's obviously making a play for these voters in very important states like Wisconsin and Michigan. You know, I've been focusing a lot on Michigan, how that's going to play for Biden and Trump. And Michigan is a tough spot for Biden right now. I think a lot of it has to do, obviously, with the Israel-Hamas war, how a lot of the Muslim voters and Arab American voters in Michigan are reacting to that. But I think for Trump to really seize on that and seize on Biden's weaknesses in Michigan, he has to also appeal to those other bucket of voters in Michigan, these union voters, and also in Wisconsin. I was talking to Republican pollster yesterday, and he said he thinks Wisconsin is the state we're not talking enough about in terms of a swing state.
Real quickly, what are the three things he goes to the microphone? He talks about steel, he talks about the border, and he talks about EVs. These are all sweet spots for union voters. So my guess is that's what the discussion was about.
The Teamsters, when Richard Nixon pardoned Jimmy Hoffa in 1971.
Was he dead yet or not?
Well, you're assuming he's dead. When he pardoned the massively corrupt Teamsters boss, Jimmy Hoffa, pardoned him in 71, and that got the Teamsters endorsement for every Republican except for Gerald Ford in 1976 until 1992. The Teamsters were a Republican endorsing union until 1992. They switched Democrats. They haven't been back since. Could they switch for Trump this time? It's not that many votes, but boy, with Trump, with Biden having the UAW endorsement, this is a way for Trump to say, well, I've got union endorsements.
Last
too.
40 years, according to the Labor Department, union membership in this country fell from 20% of all workers to 10%. Wow. So it's a smaller voting bloc. But
and that includes service workers, too, which are not necessarily the same demographic group.
Yeah, and then Florida service workers is a very different electorate than up there. But you also got to consider the down ballot implications in Michigan and Wisconsin, where we have competitive Senate races.
So, by the way, here was the Biden campaign response. They say, quote, Donald Trump pretends to be pro-worker, then sides with management and does nothing while factories close and jobs are lost. Thank you for watching. And make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.